alone, and not those of Vic Canellis Media Group, its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
Welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. With over 20 years of real estate experience and selling over 150 homes a year, Laura Sanders is the #1 RE/MAX agent in the state of Florida for 2021. Join us each week as we discuss how to make money through buying and flipping homes to renting versus selling and everything in between. To join the conversation, call in live 888-994-4995, Studio A.
Hi everyone, welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. Every week we talk about something to help you make a little money, save a little money, or maybe just help you navigate this crazy world that we live in. Today, what I thought would be most helpful for all my colleagues and for my clients to talk about what the hell is going on in this market. Are we in an appreciating market? Are we in a depreciating market? Are we in a stable market? What kind of market are we in? And how do we determine whether it's going to get better? Is it going to get worse? Or are we just greedy and want 2022 prices? So, welcome Danielle Matthews with Empire Appraisals. We have an appraiser with us today, and she's going to talk about what she's seeing in the market. Now, this isn't something that she just makes up and it's her opinion. This is something that they have programs for where they take the data, they input the data in, and the data basically helps them to spew back out what is happening. And sometimes you're even like, oh my God, it's depreciating by 1% to 2% or 2% to 3%. So tell us what you're seeing.
So every market has a submarket. And so your condo building or your 55 and older subdivision or wherever I'm appraising is the submarket of Boca or Coral Springs or Fort Lauderdale. And it can be different than what the overall market is doing. So the overall market could be stable, but your immediate market, your submarket, could be declining, typically due to oversupply.
Okay.
Oversupply tends to, make it more of a buyer's market, obviously, brings the prices down because especially when you have model matches and you have, the other day I did one with 44 months of inventory. You have lots to choose from.
Right.
So you better be not only priced aggressively, but be willing to, be flexible with your current market.
Okay, so the 44 that were available, what city?
44 months.
44 months, okay, so the amount that were available, what city was that in?
Lauderhill.
Okay. So in Lauderhill, was it all ages or 55 plus?
55 plus.
Okay. So when you looked at that, right, that 44 months of inventory, that's taking into consideration that building and every 55 plus building around?
In there, that it was a specific development of condos.
Right.
That had 44 months of active inventory of
just
only
that,
one bedrooms.
Okay, and it's just that complex. It's not,
Yes.
So let's say for instance, and let's take it a little bit more broad, okay? Let's go towards the beach, okay? So we go to the beach and you have, let's just say Boca, Highland Beach, you're coming down and you have 1 million buildings, right? Mm-hmm. There's at least 20 buildings. How do you determine, because each building is going to have a different budget, reserves, structural integrity reports, how do you utilize this in your research?
So for me personally, and it's, again, every appraiser does things differently. I've been an appraiser 23 years and I've seen lots of different stuff.
Yeah, me too.
But for me personally, especially if you have a building with, repairs going on, you have budget issues, I start with that. That's the most important thing. I mean, if you have an oversupply in your building, you have an issue.
Right.
So then you can expand it, say all of Highland Beach, and we're going to say 5 floors and above that are, 1,000 to 1,300 square feet for a 2-2 with water views. Right. That's how I determine it.
Right, but what happens if the building is just, because a lot of times these agents aren't inputting this data. First of all, it's hard to get, right? And you're asking the owners are like, I don't know. And then you ask the building and they're like, well, ask the owner. And the owner's like, well, can I have this? And like, oh, we have to charge you for it. And then the seller's like, I don't want to pay for it. I mean, there's a lot of, it's exhausting, right? So for you to get that additional information, even for an agent to look, if a building has a structural issue, right, a light item on their budget that says structural, that probably isn't a good comp, but yet you might be using it. So when you're helping to appraise for an agent could go the extra mile to try to get that information to give to you, which would be, I would imagine, very helpful. But most agents won't, right? They're like, figure it out yourself and give us a value. And I think that that's really important when, doing the appraisal, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and you guys probably are you not getting that deep into it, or are you?
Me personally, yes. So when I choose my comparables, right, let's just say I'm going outside the complex,
Right.
and I'm going to use these 4 buildings that are proximate and they all view the ocean. It's not rocket science to see, oh, look, they're getting structural engineering work done. Most likely financing is not going on in that complex for that reason. So it's probably not a good comp if I don't have issues in my building as well.
Right.
So that's why it's so important to, number one, drive your comps. Don't just cut the MLS photos. Just be aware of your market and what you're doing.
Right.
I mean, if you haven't been to, Fort Lauderdale Beach in 3 months, probably take a little drive and see what's going on right there in that immediate vicinity. Is it everybody getting structural work? Is it, for the most, some buildings are done now.
Right.
So that's important because then financing can begin again.
So would you say, though, on the overall, like, blanket it, would you say we're in a buyer's market?
Yes.
Okay. So I had an agent say to me the other day, and I was like, oh, the just market value on this property. I'm like, that's for tax purposes. That's not value purposes.
Right.
I mean, I haven't seen any house yet, because obviously the values can go down to catch to the just market before the next trim notice comes out. Because once the trim notice comes out, I've never seen just market value the same as value, because the taxing authority typically always tax at a lower rate than the actual value. Typically.
I mean, I did one the other day in Fort Lauderdale that actually appraised for less than...
House?
Yes.
Less than the just market value.
Deep water, ocean access, no fixed bridges in the landings.
Okay.
It happens, but it's not common.
Okay.
But that was a case where it needed everything and it was assessed, very high, and it actually appraised
But it needed
for lower.
everything.
It
so
needed everything.
Typically, like the taxing authority, like when you're saying something older like that, could have termites, could have structural damage, things that they're not coming out to look at.
Right.
And even if they did, they don't care. They want the most money. So it's up to you, the consumer, to argue that.
Yes.
So, there's so much that goes involved in your job. I know that we were talking one day and you said that you were doing an appraisal in Parkland and you were seeing it as a depreciating market in a particular area. So how common are you seeing this depreciation?
We have a new program that came out in February that analyzes market trends from the date of contract to the effective date of the appraisal, which has been mind-blowing in some neighborhoods. It's crazy how in just a 2 or 3 month period of time you can see a sharp decline that it maybe is not even really visible just looking at the sale prices. But once you start breaking it down by price per square foot, features, the lot size, it's declining. And I'm seeing it's like 50-50, declining or just very stable.
So what we'll do is we're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the things that you do that people can hire you outside of the realm of banks. So check out our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Danielle and find out what she can do to help you.
At JK Closing Attorneys, we do all of the same things that a title company does, but with the benefits of being a law office. We can help with residential real estate, short sales, commercial real estate, refinances, 1031 exchanges, and FRIPTA withholding.
Contact JK Closing Attorneys today at 954-332-3111. Again, that is 954-332-3111.
Whether you're buying, selling, refinancing, or building your dream home, you have a lot riding on your loan specialist. Max Fish, a top 1% mortgage loan officer in the nation, will give you a same-day qualifying quote. Max Fish is committed to providing his customers with mortgage services that exceed their expectations. Ensuring that you make the right choice for you and your family is his ultimate goal. Contact Max Fish today at 954-729-6933 or max.fisch@nwmcorp.net.
Priority One Credit Union of Florida is a welcoming credit union that makes your financial success our number one priority. We offer lower loan rates, higher deposit rates, and common sense local loan approvals, with nationwide access through shared branching.
Hi, I'm Dina Hennessy, President and CEO at Priority One Credit Union. We are open to the community. Anyone can be a member of our credit union, and we would love to have you.
Contact us today at 954-335-5100. You can also reach us at PriorityOneFL.org. Your financial success is our priority. That's 954-335-5100.
You have been watching Making Money with Laura. For more information, contact Laura Sanders at 954-650-0827 or visit her website at lauracell.com. And now back to the show.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am Laura Sanders. Today we're talking about the market. We're talking about appraisals. We're talking about, is it a declining market? Is it an increasing market? Is it a stable market? Apparently it's specific to the area, but I would say that we are in a buyer's market right now, and with me today is Danielle Matthews, and we're talking about what she can do for you. So agents, or sellers, she can do a pre-appraisal for you. And what would be a good way for people to get a hold of you for that?
You can reach me on my cell phone, 954-263-1312, or my website is appraiserdani.com.
Okay, great. The other thing she does, so for you lawyers out there, she loves divorce, not personal, but she doesn't love that. She loves divorce. She loves death, date of death. So she can help you. If you had a family member that's passed and need to know the value of your home at the time of the death, she can help you with that. If you're getting divorced and you think your wife or your husband's trying to take advantage of you, she can help you with that too. But she can go into a little bit more. She also likes to testify, which apparently a lot of appraisers don't. So she likes to go to court.
I do. I spoke to a lawyer this week that was shocked that I like to go to court. Many appraisers that I talk to, especially, are afraid of court. They're afraid of the judge. They're afraid of cross-examining, but I am not. I love it. I thrive on it. And testifying pays great. So, but one thing that a lawyer pointed out to me that is a good idea in the legal side of it is if the husband and the wife typically get their own appraisals, each get their own, one party's keeping the house, and so it's a buyout. 9 times out of 10, the judge will split the value in half. Say it varies $20,000 on a $700,000 house. They'll split the difference in half. But if it's a big difference, especially if you're the person buying the other one out, well, which one is correct? 700 or 680? So you can bring me in as a third party to review both of those appraisals and decide, did that appraiser know the market? Because a lot of times the appraiser's just not familiar with the market. They went outside your gated community not understanding that you have amenities that the other development doesn't have, or school districts or something like that. And the review can determine maybe one is more credible than the other, and then the reviewer can be the one to testify in court as to what the things that are wrong with maybe both appraisals and what a more realistic value is.
Okay. So we were talking though too, right? So obviously you can help with all these different facets, but in most markets, have you seen any incline in the market, any appreciation currently now?
New construction, as they're ending, and just have a few houses left, it may be increasing over the last maybe 3 or 4 months of the sales, finishing out. When it was in season, meaning, November to May, near the end of May, that April, May, I saw some increases in 55 and olders, but not for the most part. I mean, that's usually when there's lower inventory and a higher demand.
Okay. All right. Because I was actually just looking the other day at a 55 plus house that somebody's had on the market multiple times, and it looks like, there's just so much inventory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to see how you could see an increase, right, when there's so much inventory. But I do believe the product given can help to raise the value or sell faster. So that's another thing that you can do to help people is if they're looking to buy a home and they're like, oh my God, it needs so much work. If I buy this home in this condition at this price and I put $75,000, will I still have the value? And you can actually go out and do that for somebody. So if they're in their inspection period and they want to get that kind of an appraisal to see, are they going to be over, improving the property? Right. Though I always say if you're going to live there and enjoy it, does it really matter, right? But
you never know what can happen.
That is true. You could die, or you could have
a
divorce.
Could. Yeah.
Yeah, and you might need to change.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's definitely something important. But like I said, what would you say on average is the percentage that we're seeing the market declining overall? Like, if you could can you blanket it?
Not really, just because, a starter home is different than a
right.
$1 million home or $900,000, $800,000 home. It's
because I see like 750 and higher is like a little bit slower of a market.
Yes.
800 for sure slower.
Yeah.
In the 7 still could be okay, but
right.
a little slower.
Between 5 and 7 seems to be moving along no matter what's going on. You
right.
know, those are first-time home buyers now, which is crazy.
Changing the market.
Yeah. So it's not a blanket percentage. I mean, I've seen, 0.5% a month, 1% a month, something like that, just depending.
Right. But then, like I said, we were talking about that one in Parkland, and you were saying you saw it going about 2 to 3%, which you were like floored on.
Yeah. Well, that was an appraisal was done at the beginning of the year and then mid-year, and there was a big difference between the two values, and that was just, a decline. I mean, that was declining at, I believe, about 2%, 2.3% a month, something like that. So, but that's a very high-priced home.
But I also feel that condition 3 years ago is different than condition today. So condition could have been subpar 3 years ago in 2022, where today condition is very important.
Oh, very much so, agree. Yeah.
So like how you keep your house, even down to being neat and organized, people cannot see past your stuff, where in 2022, you could have a hole in the roof and people are like, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
And things were not appraising. People were paying the difference. And here we are today. I have people text me all the time, oh, I'll do a short sale, I'll do a foreclosure. And I'm like, we don't have them really yet. Not yet.
A little bit.
Condos
here and there. Yeah.
might be, but not single family. I have not seen homes yet. I've seen condos. I've not seen homes yet. So it will be interesting to see what the next 6 months brings. But Hopefully interest rates come down, but they say definitely not before September. And I don't even know in September if that will happen.
Yeah. Well, one thing I tell realtors is if you have a listing that is stale, it's just been sitting there, your seller's not being realistic, maybe you've even had an offer and they turned it down, get an appraisal done, spend the $450, just because the way I can break down the market trends versus what the realtor's trying to tell them can be different, you know, and I'm going by, have those listings that they're competing with been listed over and over and over? I'm starting to see that they're getting pulled off the market after, 130 days and then relisted 5 days later. All those days on market should be being combined because they're consecutive listings. And then the other thing that's important is what the list to sale ratio is now. It's not 99% in every community anymore. It could be 93%. It could be
Can you explain that a little bit
89%.
more?
So list to sale ratio, you're asking 700,000, but be prepared to take 7% off of that list price because everything's selling at.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and I'm actually
What's the average you're seeing?
93 to 95%.
7 to 5% off the list price.
Off the list price, and the seller concessions are important. I'm also seeing, as I import my data, 55% of all sales had a seller concession. 89% of all sales had a seller concession. So you, as the seller, are thinking, well, my neighbor got 500,000, so why am I not getting 500? Well, they got 500, but they also had a new roof, and they gave an $18,000 seller concession, so they really didn't get 500. So that's important sometimes for the seller to see in black and white on an appraisal grid. This is how it all breaks down. And just because your neighbor sold for 500 and you're not getting any offers, is it the view? Is it the pool? Is it the roof? Is it your kitchen? Is it your windows? Because if it's all of those things,
wants impact.
it could be all of those things. And by the time you deduct all of that, you could be closer to 425. And
say this again for everybody, because I know we're getting ready to run out of time. But I want the audience to hear exactly again what you just said, because I think this is really important. So say it again.
So just because your neighbor sold for $700,000 and you're like, I'm worth 700 and I'm not selling for a penny under 700 because if Tom got it, I'm getting it. Well, Tom also had a newer roof. Tom had a water view. Tom's yard was 50% bigger than yours. Tom redid his kitchen 2 years ago, and he had full impact windows. So you take those 5 things and deduct that off of your list price, you could be at 600. You could be at 580. So just because your neighbor sold doesn't mean that's what you're going to get. And that's why it's so important to get the appraisal done, because if you are worth 700, you can show the next buyer coming in who's trying to talk you down on that cash offer. Hey, it's cash, take it right now. Hey, listen, I got an appraisal. Here it is. So.
Well, you've heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Okay, Danielle Matthews.
I'm not a horse.
She's a horse. You've heard it from her mouth. She's telling you, I'm not making this stuff up. I try to tell people, when I sit down with somebody, I say, let's look at a couple of things. Let's look at the lot size, right? And now, I know if like the tax record says it's $10 a square foot, you're probably giving them 5, right?
Depends.
Yeah, it depends. But like you could be, it's not going to be that specific number. Then I say, let's look at the size of the house, right? What is it under air and what's the difference? I mean, if we have, 200 square feet difference, like that could be worth another, $20,000, right? So then I say, okay, let's look at the condition. How do you think this house fares in condition to your house, right? Now, if that house has the old kitchen cabinets, right, the color of like these chairs, this wood look, and somebody else has a white shaker cabinet. Now, you might not like white shaker cabinet, but the trends are in the whites right now. So there might be value there. Do you have a pool or are you on the water? There's value there. How do you determine what that value is? Well, you got to see what other ones are selling, and your program tells you this. So honestly, if you're thinking about selling your house, give Danielle a call. If you're thinking about selling your house, give me a call. I'll hook you up with Danielle, and I'll even credit you back at closing for the cost of Danielle to appraise your house to see what your home's worth. So give me a call, Laura Sanders, RE/MAX Direct at 954-650-0827. And again, reach out to Danielle. Her number is
954-263-8255. 1312, appraiserdanny.com.
And again, laurasell.com. And it's always a pleasure to be here for you every week, night on Thursday, and talking about all these different things that can help you and myself when it comes to real estate or just navigating this world. Thanks again and have a great night.
Thank you for tuning in for Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. To join the conversation, call us at the studio, 888-994-4995 Studio A, or contact Laura directly at 954-650-0827. Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. We look forward to seeing you next week.